Hi everyone, welcome to this week's hobby vlog video. And I wanted to talk about a topic that came to my head a few times while I was painting my Votan range, and that's the topic of trusting the process. I'm sure many of you have experienced this before, where there's a certain doubt that what you're doing is going to look nice and what you're doing is going to work out in terms of painting or just even in real life, right? Trusting the process. And you have to just trust that what you're doing will work out fine in the end. Now, obviously, that sounds really serious, but for painting, it's not that impactful. If you don't like it, you just restart. But um, trusting the process, I think, is something I've had to learn to cope with, particularly for this color scheme. And I think a big reason for that is because it's so dark. So this is the Grimnir, and he's not finished yet. So I haven't added any of the glow or the highlights, but that's the next thing I'm going to be doing for this model. But what do I mean by trusting the process? So I mean a few things by that. The first thing I mean is that I feel for myself, my experience can be best described as a bell curve shape. Um, so if I start something and I'm new to it, I feel like I'm not as good or confident in the process as I'd like to be, obviously, which is normal because you just started. And the first couple models you produce are always going to look slightly less good than things you'll make later on. It's just normal, or not even slightly less nice, but just even your process in terms of speed or efficiency or shortcuts. As time goes on and you get experience, you start to automate a lot of those working processes that you have in place. For myself, that's true and it applies. But what I've noticed is at a certain point, the more I start doing something and the more I get comfortable with it, I actually feel like I begin slacking off and losing some of that control or that quality, or just I start to doubt that I'm going to produce something at the same standard that I've been aiming for throughout the project. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's just complacency, or you just feel comfortable and you don't want to push yourself. And I think there is a twofold to this. So the second thing is that um, I'm a very visual person. So for me to feel confident in painting something, I need a good reference picture first. I'm not creative enough, honestly, I guess, to be able to think up a scheme and just throw it on a model. I really need to see something and then draw inspiration from that, or use it as a base reference to like, make my foundation, and then from there add my personality to whatever it is I'm working on. I guess it just adds a level of assurance that I'm not wasting my time. It makes me feel a little more confident in the scheme I'm making. And I said this in my army showcase, but that was a big reason why I picked this scheme, is that I saw it done and I knew it looked nice and I knew I would like the outcome if I could replicate something like that. So I was pretty happy with it, as I said in the video, but I began encountering this issue of needing to trust the process because some of the models I did not like how my reference picture looked, and I knew I wanted something different. And so, for example, like, these guys are pretty simple to replicate from using a reference, right? It's all one color for the armor, and then you kind of just add your glow effect. You can't really mess that up. So obviously, I know I'm going to like how this comes out if I trust the process and just finish it and see it the whole way through. For the champion, I didn't like the reference picture too much. I thought that there was a little too much of an accent with the red everywhere, and I wanted to tone that down, but still make him stand out as his own champion. So I had to trust the process that it would get me as far as I needed it to, and then be able to personalize the character myself. And this is obviously really small because I decided to just paint like accents for the red at the top of the shoulders and do the trim of the shield. Not a big deal. Another example would be with the Sagittar. I wanted to add something, this one's a work in progress as well, but I wanted to add something that would make my vehicles pop a little bit better because there aren't many spots to put glow other than really the front and the back. So I decided to put transfers on the side. I kind of just had to trust myself that this would look nice, and I put it on the Hecaton first, and I was happy with it. So I decided to add it to my Sagittars. Now, what happens if the process you're looking to implement is completely different than anything you've done before? What happens if the reference image is nowhere near what you're trying to produce? And that's what I encountered with the Grimnir. So every reference picture I see of a dark iron Grimnir, the trim is either red, so that gold trim I made here is either red, or it's lava, like a glow for this. I personally, I don't like that because I feel like it's just the material that this guy is wearing, right? It's just embroidered with gold. It's a gold pattern. And I didn't feel like making this bright and shiny with the orange and the lava colors, the glow, would suit the model well. I wanted it to be a little more toned down, and I wanted to just have glow on the top here, consistent with how I did my Einir Champion. I wanted some on his eyes, as I did with the rest of my army. I wanted some on his staff, on the head, and I wanted some on his hand. That's all I wanted. So really, I wanted it to look sort of like he's drawing power from the earth, and he's using that, obviously he's elevated on it, but he's using that to project some kind of magma spell from his hand, or the staff is imbued with some kind of fire energy. That's what I really wanted to capture and keep the aesthetic moderately toned down. I didn't want him to be a super shining beacon on the battlefield and stand out from the rest of my army. So this is completely off the top of my head, and it's not finished yet, but I'm having my doubts because there's no process to go on. This is new territory. So I'm gonna try finishing this, and I feel ultimately that it's gonna come out nice because it's gonna fit in with everything else that I've done. I think what I'm trying to say really is trusting the process doesn't necessarily mean trusting that you're copying something or being inspired by work or following the same procedure you've done for everything else. I think trusting the process means that you have a general idea of what you want this thing to come out as, and you have a general idea of how to achieve it. And so you need to trust that by putting those things together, you're going to get the outcome you're looking for. It's such a silly feeling because, I've painted over 1,000 points of these guys so far using the same scheme, and there's nothing fundamentally different from this guy to this guy or from this to this. Even though they look different, they're different models, the process is still the same. And you need to trust that what you've learned and what you've accomplished is still going to be able to work when you apply that to something new. There's no reason why you should assume that you'll fail and that you should assume that it's going to look ugly. And if it does, worst case, you'll be able to see it completed, and now you'll know what doesn't work. Immediately, what needs to change. Like, I'm looking at this, and my primary doubt was the gold trim. Before I started painting this, it was, I don't think the gold trim is going to look nice. But seeing it now in my hand, I'm pretty happy with the gold. I think it looks good. I think I put it in the right spots. And it's toned down, but it still kind of shines. And I'm going to probably touch it up a little bit to highlight. But the thing I'm doubting right now in this process is the staff. I feel like the staff is too one-dimensional in color. But I need to trust that when I put that glow, that is what breaks up the black, the glow. As I've been doing on everything else, even my vehicles, which don't have much glow, when I put it, In the back, it's going to look nice. Same thing with my Hearthguard, same thing with my Einir Champion. This is the key aspect of the army. I need to trust in my process and trust that it's going to work out. So yeah, guys, that's basically all I wanted to say for today. It's just for this hobby vlog, I want to talk about what I've been feeling a little more recently with these newer models that I'm touching, that I wanted to differentiate from my reference image, and that doubt and that need to trust yourself and trust the process that you've been building up towards, that it's going to work out and it's going to look fine, hopefully. I'm not sure if this is something any of you guys can relate to. I'm not really sure what to even categorize it as, what this should be called, but maybe it's kind of like painter's doubt or imposter syndrome. I've heard used before, that you don't really fit in with what you're doing. In this case, that you're not actually doing a good job painting. But you've seen the work you've done, and you know that you'll be able to keep doing that level of quality and take risks. It's still the same process. Trust it. But you're changing it up a little bit. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. All right, a little bit of a ramble, but it was just something I was thinking about while I was building this guy and starting to paint him up. So I figured it'd be a good topic for me to bring up in a quick little hobby vlog video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one.